Hello everyone, welcome back to the Plunder Den. In this week's episode, we're going to be building a garrison house. So this is kind of a continuation of the Frontier series. If you've been watching the channel for a while, it's been a while actually since I've been on the Frontier. But I did do a series of videos where I did the blockhouse and we did a Frontier fort and a wigwam and a longhouse and a giant native village and fortification and all sorts of stuff that takes place on the Frontier. And we even covered the expansion that Blood and Plunder had, the Fire on the Frontier. You know, this is kind of a continuation of that. So the Garrison House would have been something else, you know, in a fortification. It's kind of like your barracks, and but it also has a, you know, a place where they can get food and you know, munitions, weapons, that kind of stuff. And it would be centrally located in the fort. So I wanted to build one of those on the channel. So that's something that we haven't built yet. And I kind of wanted to go back to that. I know we've been kind of working on those game tables for Firelock games. We did the, in the last channel, we did the Port Royale tables. We've done 2 of those, actually, the last couple of things I've done. And then there's all sorts of structures that I built around that. But I kind of wanted to go back to the Frontier. Now, you play Blood and Plunder, it kind of expands over all sorts of different areas of North America. And the Frontier is definitely part of that. So let's take a look at it. This is the project we're going to build. So this is the Garrison House here. So you can see it's kind of a rustic house. They usually traditionally had a chimney down the center of it. And then you got fireplaces down the middle of it. I did actually spend some time looking at schematics, actually, of actual garrison houses of this time period. So this is kind of somewhat historically correct, but I definitely was inspired by those blueprints and stuff that I found online. There's not a lot of photos, obviously, but there is some recreated ones that were good examples for me to look at. So let's take a look at it. There's 3 sections here, so let's maybe just take off the top. This is the roof. And actually, I got all these little components in here. I spent a lot of time building details on this one, so I really kind of wanted to have this is really, really detailed, so you can play right through this entire garrison house. And that's kind of a theme I've done on this channel, where very playable terrain that you can play right through. So let's take a look at it. This is the first floor. So you can see I got, like I said, the fireplace is down the center, it goes up to the chimney. But I got a lot of details. I've done this before, where I did like kind of a gun rack above the chimney. We did that New England style house. This is very similar to that. And then you got your staircase in there. But if you got to look over here, I got some gun racks in here. And those are some of this is kind of a bigger room, more of like a console, you know, maybe the war room, as I essentially say. And I built this, it's a little table. It's got a map on it. It's got some steins of something they're drinking. There's weapons on here, stuff that they would just have sitting on top of their table while they're discussing strategy. And then I made a couple of beds. You can't have a garrison house without some places for the soldiers to sleep in, so I made some beds. And we're going to build all these on the channel here. There's some benches and stuff like that, and that's in that particular level. Now, moving on to the main floor. So let me give me some of these other smaller pieces out of here so I don't fall off. You can see we got build a staircase. And this is kind of like your common room. I've got some swords on above the fireplace here, some more details there. And then we got kind of a kitchen here. I even added some plates and stuff in here, and there's where they prepare food. And then on this floor here, you can see I actually put more stonework on there in the kitchen. That was more appropriate for that time period for the kitchen area. But I made more benches, and I made another table. These are loose, just so you can add them anywhere you want. And I actually put even a hat rack right there. Just, you know, added a lot of details in here. Wanted the interior to be very playable and a lot of extra details. Now, this is kind of a system I've used before to combine them together. You can see I just have these little wooden pieces here. This fits exactly over top of the other one. This is exactly like I did the blockhouse, so these match exactly the way I did the construction. And then I kind of went with the track system on the top roof. So the track system, it just sits in there nice like that, and there you go. They all fit together. Pretty easy peasy, and that's what we're going to be working on the channel today. So sorry, it's been a while since I've been on this episode. Actually, this actually took quite a bit of time to build. I think I did 2 or 3 weeks for this project, which is a little bit longer than I usually do, but probably because all the extra details I added to it. And then there was a couple of weeks where I was engaged in other things and didn't have a chance to film anything. So I'm glad I'm back. I got some more projects coming up that I'm going to be doing right away on the channel here. So I'm pretty excited to get back at it and get some more content out for you guys. All right, if you guys like what we're doing here in the Plunder Den, make sure you smash that like button and consider subscribing to the Plunder Den and get first-hand information when I start these kind of projects. All right, everyone, let's get down to the table. Let's start doing some painting and let's start doing some crafting. Okay, so let's go over some of the items that I use for this project. We got assorted balsa wood here, mostly for framing windows, framing out the building. I got this all bulk on Amazon. And I also get these larger pieces of balsa wood. They're nice and soft, easy to cut, and they're great for gluing staircases. Here's some coffee stir sticks. I got this from the Dollarama. But I did actually get some more coffee stir sticks from Amazon. They have some good deals there too as well. Some dollar store foam board. I get that from the Dollar Tree, the Ready board. I got a cereal box here, some cardstock, and some insulation foam there. So the first thing I did was essentially cut out my shapes, the 2 main floors. So one's the bottom floor and one is the floor above. And just kind of traced them on there, and then these are the walls. I made sure to measure the widths of the walls onto the board, like I usually do with a pencil, and just trace it on there. And the balsa wood is I'm going to use to frame out the windows we're going to cut out here in a sec here. We got 2 different types I'm showing you. One's a thicker and one's a thinner. Also use coffee stir sticks to trace that out as well. So really, I just measured it out. These are about 1 inch wide and about 1.5 inches, or no, actually 1.25 inches high, if you're wondering what size those are. And you know, it really varies depending on what building you're building, what style of building. Some of these buildings had quite large windows, so I kind of decided to go in that direction for this particular build, but you could make them smaller. And then I just pointed out that I'm going to trace out in here. You can see I use coffee stir sticks in there to frame out those windows, mainly because you got a ledge on both sides. I got to consider the interior. And you can see that I've only done one side with a tinfoil ball, pulled the paper off, and left the one side because we're going to glue wood to the front side. And so if you have any chance, keep the paper on as best you can because it adds a lot more durability to the foam board. These are the smaller pieces of balsa wood, and I'm using those for the inner parts of the windows. You can see they're curling a little bit. Once you hot glue them onto that top, that won't be an issue. They'll keep it nice and straight, and then of course you're going to cover it with black craft paint and stuff, and it'll straighten it all out. So in these early stages, I really just use a hot glue gun. That's just to glue it on fast. You could do it as white glue, but then you got to kind of like wedge it and keep it straight. And you can see the boards are kind of bowed a little bit. So you can see that I have the textured side on the inside for the interior, and I have the just paper side on the outside that I'm going to glue all the timbers to. So first thing I'm going to start off with, these are actually popsicle sticks, and I didn't mention that in the original supplies, but I'm going to use popsicle sticks to do the edgings and kind of frame out the whole structure, give it a lot of strength, and that way I don't have to do as many coffee stir sticks. So I just kind of framed it out like this. You can see I've used balsa wood around just to frame out the windows a little bit more. Those style of houses had a lot of like trim and stuff around the windows, just a little more decorative, right? And I did it around the doorway, added a little more balsa wood to the bottom so it looks like there's a step there. And you can see I just did a lot of woodwork. They're going to do that around all the windows in here and then also on the top floor. So there's going to be a lot of framing to do. So this is after I've done framing and I'm moved into the coffee stir stick. So I'm using a smaller stick to actually do the paneling on the side of the house. Most of these Garrison houses, that's what they look like. They had timbers. There's a few I've seen was it had somewhat of a stone bottom, but I've never actually done just a building with just all timbers except for the blockhouse. I kind of wanted this to match the blockhouse. So I kind of just went ahead and did that. Most of the reference pictures looked like that. So you can see I just glued them on. It took some time to do this part. Actually, this is probably the longest part, is gluing all these little coffee stir sticks on here. So once I was done the bottom, I went to the top, started gluing them on as well. And just kind of getting that outer shell of the whole structure. Once you start adding all these pieces of wood to it, these are really sturdy now. Now they've added all this wood, and we're going to even put some framing on the inside, so this is going to be very, very solid. Now, I'm not going to work on the track system quite yet, or you can see I've traced out the size of the bottom on the part on the top part, and that's where we're going to put those little wooden, I guess they're like timbers, details, but they're going to be used to keep the top onto the bottom. But we'll get to that later. Right now I'm kind of deciding the interior. So I kind of wanted this room to be broken up into, because I wanted to do a kitchen and I wanted to do like a common room. And I wanted to have the wall where the fireplaces are going to be. So the fireplaces in a lot of these structures in this particular were right in the center of the entire housing. And it goes right up through all the floors, right up to the double chimney that's on the top. And I kind of wanted to leave enough room to build a staircase so I can come up to the second floor. So a lot of planning here, and just some basic shapes. I cut this fireplace out of foam. I'm really just going to cut the bricks in with that. And how I dig it out is I just use that box cutter or X-Acto knife, and I just cut it up. And used actually tweezers to pull it out. And that's pretty much. And I use a pencil to really just make the bricks. So this is the one after I've completed it. Kind of made a curved top. All the fireplaces I saw in most of those frontier homes and Garrison houses had this kind of style fireplace. Of course, I'm going to put a wooden mantle on it later. Just really doing the basic shapes to put it in there. And that's going to take care of that. So that's what I meant about the tweezers there. Once you start carving it up, I just kind of pull it out with the tweezers like that until I dig a nice hole in there. And get that out, and that's your inside of your fireplace. And again, using a pencil to detail it. And then once I did that, I went back with a tinfoil ball and kind of gave it a little bit of stone texture to it. So you can see these are done. They came out good. Once you add a little paint and stuff to them, it really looks like a real good fireplace. I've done this before in some of the other builds, especially that New England house. This is very similar to that build. All right, so then I got some timbers in the corners, and I usually just frame out the floor first, kind of like the molding on the floor around the edges before I start putting the planks in. But also the one room I'm planning on doing some stones. So everything looks pretty straight in there. I'm pretty happy with that. It's more sturdier even when you put that piece in the middle. So I kind of offsetted the planks this time. I know sometimes I've just made straight planks. But I kind of went with an offset pattern this way. This looks more like what the floor would have looked like when they laid it down. So I kind of went a little more realistic in the, not so much the easy way out, but made it look a little bit better. This is egg cartons. I've used these in the channel before to make stones, and I'm going to use those in front of the chimney. In the front of the fireplace, and then in the kitchen area they would have had it all stoned off in there. So I wanted to really identify that as a separate different area than the common room. So this is that balsa wood I was talking about. So it's actually really lightweight, which is great, because when you use some white glue and you glue it up to the foam board there, it actually just sticks on there real nice because it's not very heavy. It won't tip off. And once it all dries on there, you get yourself a nice set of steps going up to the next level. And we're going to put some coffee stir sticks on there to add a little more, a little bit wider, as you can see here. That way your miniatures sit on them nicer. So definitely the miniatures on there was important. I like to have all my staircases playable. it's not to scale, but it's not too far off that it looks ridiculous. So it kind of looks like it matches in there, and it fits your miniatures nice. But I probably, you know, in real life, those would be a little bit smaller. So you can see I've added the mantles now, and so I'm starting to frame the top part. So that's just bigger balsa wood, and I'm just framing the very top of it. It's just to make the whole piece really solid, especially when you start putting the track system on it just slides in nice and holds everything tight, so nothing wobbles in there. So I kind of spent some time measuring this out to make sure I cut the right hole in the area. So I've got the bottom, as I mentioned before, traced on there. I knew where the staircase was, so I kind of just figured out where it was. I actually just lifted up at an angle and just etched it a little bit with a pencil and kind of measured the distance from the widths of the actual second floor of the walls. And then the distance, so I already penciled in so I can see how far it is from the edge. And then that's how I figured it out, how much I need. Now, I usually make it a little bit more elongated. That way you can actually put the miniatures down the staircases. Of course, there's a turn at the bottom. I can show you right here. We're looking inside here. The turn that goes down. But yeah, anyways, you can access all the steps from the second floor there, and then you can put your miniatures on there, and they fit nice in there. And that's kind of as I illustrate here. So you can just kind of put them down the stairs there, and so you can play all the way even on the staircase, right? I just want the whole building to be playable. You know, some buildings I just put a ladder in there, and you just, I guess, in the game you just assume they're just going up the ladder. But I like it better when you can actually move your miniatures up the staircase. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the second floor. I kind of wanted to, the same thing, 2 rooms, kind of making that, I talked about that war room, conference room, kind of bigger room, and then the other room was kind of more of the barracks with the beds in it. So I wanted to install some beds. And of course, adding that middle wall in there as more support to the whole building and structure again. I hot glue those in there. I don't really wait. And then do that to make it a little more solid. Now, I've fast forwarded some of the video here just to save some time on this, but I'm just framing out the top like I did the bottom. Nothing new here from the bottom half. So I decided to do the walls. They would have been stoned out just to protect from heat. It would have been more of a kind of a fire retention wall between the two, and so I wanted to make sure I stoned those out on the bottom and the top floor, as you can see here. And it looks a little more interest. You got an accent wall there. It would make sense to have stone around the fireplaces too. So I kind of had it on there. I got to add some more trim to the top as the same as the bottom. I got some coffee stir sticks in there, and I kind of want to do some framing as well. You can see I framed the stairwell too, the way up from the stairwell. That's also going to make it sturdier too by framing it out. So this is after I put all the planks on. I went back to the egg carton stones for the fireplaces. And as everything kind of matches the bottom half. Now these are some interesting decorative wood I got from the dollar store. I thought they would be good mounting areas for my rifles to be on my fireplace. Kind of like a mounting plate. So when I saw them in the store, like, I know it's kind of just a small thing to use them for, but that's what I used it for. So I went through all my sprues from all my Firelock miniatures and pulled off all my guns and stuff I didn't use, because I'm planning on doing gun racks. I'm going to put some guns. This is like large table for the war room, and that's going to be that map. If you've seen some of the early pictures I posted of this, that's just really thin fabric I got from Walmart. And they sell it as pre-cut, and I just cut it into the shape. And what I do is I just paint it onto the structures. And then once it dries, then you can put it whatever color you want. So I used Gorilla Glue to attach the guns to that hobby wood. And you can see these are these beds here. This is just balsa wood, and that large flat piece is just a square piece that you get at the dollar store. They have like square hobby wood. I got insulation foam as pillows, and the blanket is again more of that Walmart fabric on here. These are the parts I'm going to use in the kitchen. Again, a lot of this is just balsa wood. That's a big square balsa wood with some planks on top, coffee stir sticks. I made kind of a little scoop for the oven. And we got another little table there. These are just basic shapes. I put some weapons and stuff on there, so it looks like they're, I got a couple of steins there, like they're having beer. There's a hat on there. Just kind of details you'd find on the table while they're looking, scrutinizing the map. Just adding extra details. I decided to make a hat rack would be kind of cool by the front door. Like I said, just over the top details. This is a Garrison house, so it definitely would have weapons in there. So I wanted to have a few gun racks in here, definitely, to help out. So yeah, just showing you I used a Gorilla Glue to glue a lot of these pieces on. Once that's dried, that's my black multi-surface craft paint. I'm just going to paint them all and cover that all up. So let's move on to the roof. It's just a straight piece. I made 2 triangles as the tops. I think that's only about 2 inches high. I decided as the heights I want. That's just a piece of insulation foam, and I cut a little bit of a larger piece on the top. And I'm going to carve it with a pencil, the entire texture on there, to make my large chimney, double chimney in the very top of the roof. So this would have gone right through to the roof. So I figured I'd glue the chimney in first, and then cut out the roof over top. So I even cut out the top of the chimney as well. So it just looks very realistic. And you can see I've measured up and drawn with a pencil where the center of that is. Glued it in place. And now I'm going to use the black craft paint to actually seal all this in. This will actually ends up warping the top a little bit, but you just paint the bottom and then unwarps it. So you just counter warp it and it's in good shape. So you can see I've completed that, and then I've cut these other pieces of Dollar Store foam board, and I kind of edged it to an edge so it fits nice and snug up against the chimney here. So now I got 2 pieces here, one for the left, and one side is a little bit longer than the other because it overlaps at the peak. So you get one side, and then the other side overlaps as well. So then you get a perfect triangle. I'm just kind of illustrating that right now. So you want it to overlap the triangle plus that little extra piece of Dollar Store. So one side has to be a little bit longer than the other, and that way you get a perfect triangle on your roof. So also I'm going to cover them in black craft paint as well and seal it all in the rest of the chimney. So now move on to shingles. So this is the Cheerio cereal box here, the cardstock. I cut them into these strips. They're the same, like they're 1 inch. They're like the same size of the little blocks. Actually, I think they're 1/2 inch, to be honest, on the table here, those little blocks. And you can see I've just kind of cut them 75% way into those pieces. And then I clip them off every so many ones I've clipped them off to make like the shingle shape. But you can see I cut them into smaller pieces. That's important. Don't leave it in one long strip because it looks too uniform when you glue it on. Make sure you cut them into smaller pieces. So when I glued the roof together, I'm just showing you that I used a combination of white glue and hot glue. So white glue around where the chimney is, and then hot glue around the rest of it. That way you get a good bind. Using 2 different types of glues to glue it nice and snug. All right, so now we're going to move on to, once that's all dry, we're going to add these shingles on. And I just do this as hot glue. You can do it as white glue, but it's kind of tedious and it curls up sometimes. Hot glue will just put it in place, and you add a little bit of weight to the top of the roof. You can see this is after I put them on. I just went up and down with those smaller panels. I did another little framing of balsa wood around the edges and the edges of the sides. And then I'm going to fill in the sides with the same planks. Those kind of houses had planks right up to the side of the building. It was all kind of like siding wooden planks. So now this is the track system I'm talking about. So the reason why I have that 2 ways is one is to stop it from going sideways or back and forth. So you kind of have your track system going both ways. It fits snug into that second floor. And then on here, I just use, same as the blockhouse, I use these little bits of balsa wood. And it kind of looks like timbers that would be on that style house. But it also is a practical use of holding the second floor on there. And that staircase actually fits nice too. So everything fits nice and snug on there. And I also made a door. I didn't spend a lot of time on it. That's just coffee stir sticks. The whole thing actually is just coffee stir sticks, except for that little doorknob. That's actually just a piece of a sprue from Firelock Games ship. I kept them all. Good make for good doorknobs. This is the all the pieces you can see of the scatter that I'm going to put inside the buildings. They're all covered in craft paint, and now I got to hit the rest of it with the black multi-surface folk art craft paint that I always use to seal everything in. So this is after I've covered everything. Absolutely everything is covered in the black craft paint. And now we're going to move on to the real brown. These are the colors I always use. So we're just going to go right back to the basic colors. So that's also folk art paint as well, craft paint. And you can see we've kind of just, I use kind of my bigger paintbrush to kind of just do the broad strokes when you're just doing big areas like this and everything's going to be touched with that brown. Again, as I mentioned several times, I like to put all the earth tones down first before I start putting colors into anything. So then move on to bark brown is the next. It's like a lighter brown color. And then again, we're just going to hit everything again. And then you probably know what the next color, if you've been watching this channel. I'm going to go to the Pablo. And we're going to hit some nice highlights on everything with that orange color that I like to use this Pablo. It's a really nice color. And we're going to cover everything in that. Except for the floor. I'm not going to put it on there. We're going to go to some yellow ochres instead. I don't want that orange color on there. So this is another color, coffee latte. It's a new color I've kind of used. I'm going to add that to the floor first. It's kind of like a mixture of the yellow ochre and real brown, but it's already pre-mixed for you. So, I kind of, to speed up the process a little bit, I went to that color first. So I'm just going to kind of hit the planks. You can see how I'm applying the paint. I kind of wanted to stop here because this is a little more important stage than what I was doing before. It's just adding undertones. So I'm going to hit all the wood and the entire pieces, all these little scatter bits and the inside of here. So you can see this is afterwards. And it's okay if it's dark on the edges and stuff. I didn't cover some areas. It just kind of looks more aged and you got all those multi-colors on there. Really makes that floor look more realistic. Camel color. This is what I use for my stonework. So same, I use a small, like kind of wide brush on here. So it's not really a dry brush. It's kind of, but it's kind of, I don't have a lot of paint on there and I just kind of smear it on. And it just hits all the raised areas. So it is kind of like dry brushing, but it was a flat brush. And you can see I just kind of goes through the whole process. So I'm going to hit all the stonework on both floors. Any of these scatter bits that have the chimney. And I kind of add a little bit to that map. I'm going to lay some light colors down on it first before I actually paint the colors on it. That, you'd find on a map. So this is just showing you all the different pieces that are done. We're going to move to a yellow ochre and real brown mixture. I want to add that over top of that coffee latte. That's the next brighter color they're going to move up to. So we're going to put extra colors. You can see that nice multi-tone right now, but I'm going to add some yellow ochre in there. We're going to even add some more tones in there. And I'm also going to hit all these other pieces in here, all these stuff, anything that has wood on it. All right, so we got kind of now the reason why I kind of like the lighter yellow is when you use these speed paints, you can start adding all the colors onto it using these speed paints over top of that lighter yellow. And it really has a nice effect. It makes it look like aged flooring. And we'll get to that in just a sec. But I'm going to use this gray. And you can see the browns I already put down. I just lightly put the gray over top. And it kind of gives the wood an aged look. A lot of these Garrison houses were made of just a lot of timbers and for the outside. And wood actually gets aged fairly quickly and it grays. So this is an easy way. I just use this gray folk art multi-surface craft paint. And the same flat brush. Again, I'm just kind of painting the whole thing with this little small flat brush. And you can see I'm just smearing it on. And I have to work it all the way around the entire walls. So you get kind of like this left over. You got a little bit of brown left out behind and kind of the gray over top. So mummy robe, I've decided I was going to go with white highlighted windows and also going to hit the stones a little bit with that too as well and brighten them up a little bit. But I kind of wanted to show you that I was going to use this for... this is a finer brush that I'm using now. to get the windowsills. And I'm not going to cover, I'm going to cover most of it, but I do leave a little bit at the bottom. So it just gives it a weathered look, like some of the paint's chipping away over time. You know, some of the stuff they used back then wasn't as sufficient as the paints they use now. And some of that stuff just weathers and falls off, even on newer structures. So I'm going to add some white to the pillows and some other details on some of that scatter bits. So I'm going to go with an army green. And then this other color is it's like a taupe. And that's one of those new paints from Army Painters. They're a Fanatic paint line. And I like that combination for the roof tiles. And I'm not going to hit all the roof tiles, just some of them. I use a smaller brush. I just showed you a couple of metallics that I'm going to put on the guns and stuff like that. I'm just going to start hitting the details. And you can see I've already painted the map. I didn't show you those colors. It's just a blue and a couple of lighter greens, but I used a couple of different tones. Just look at their shallows. I painted a couple of plates. Those are just round pieces of hobby wood. And you can see the multicolored roof, the green. I really like those colors together. This is a leather brown, more fang brown. I'm going to hit some of the hats and the gun handles and that stuff, the sheaths on the swords. Ash gray, we're going to lighten up some of the walls. We got dark stones and grim black. So we're just going to age some of the wood on here. And then, of course, my washes. I got Wildwood, I got Skeleton Horde, and Agrax Earthshader. Kind of my grunge team to clean up. Sand Golem and hardened leather. That's actually just going to be for the wooden planks. So I tell you, use some of the speed paints to lighten that. I really didn't spend a lot of time showing all these details. I mean, I could do another video if you want me to do just spending on flooring. You should leave a comment down below if you would be interested in just watching a whole video of me painting just flooring, just so you can see the whole steps of how I do it. But you can see adding those different colored speed paints, it just really adds to the flooring. You get all these different colors in there. And gives it a nice look to the floor and the tables, furniture, everything, just because it gives, well, natural wood look. So you can see this is after I've hit everything. I've added all the details. And some of the stuff I glued in, some of it didn't. Like that table I didn't glue in. That'll be loose. The beds will be loose just so people can move them around. You know, if you don't necessarily want them in the room, you don't have to. But anything up in the walls, like I kind of glued it on. Because it's not really in the way. You know, especially if you're playing with a lot of miniatures, maybe you don't want to have some of that furniture in there. So I made it removable. So you don't necessarily have to have it in there. I added some stripes to those blankets just to make it look like they're quilts or comforters or something appropriate for that time period. And that's kind of the details I added. I added some black to the fireplaces too, so it looks like some of the smoke stain came up. I did that at the very top of the chimney as well. And you can see all those multicolored greens and taupes and the browns and stuff. Really makes the shingles look realistic. All right, so I kind of did a play on the Great Swamp Battle. You got the natives and the French defending the fort, and we have our force of a British, English frontier. You got all sorts. I got all sorts of different miniatures in here. We got from the old line, new line, from the Fire and the Frontier. There's some that's the Benjamin Church there, and some of the other miniatures that they have in that book. But also some of the new units from Raise the Black. So that's kind of a scenario in here. I kind of, like I said, a play on that Great Swamp Battle. We got some native warriors. Again, we'll just go over to the fortifications. So this is a fort we built on the channel. It makes its way on the channel once in a while. All these fortifications, all these buildings and structures. If this is the first time you're watching my channel, all these things are available on the channel. There's videos on how to build all this stuff on here. There's the wigwam. Yeah, just some other stuff. Now, that actual corner piece, some of this stuff is actually from Firelock Games. They have their Palisade Fort you can still purchase. And here's the Fire on the Frontier structure manual. I do recommend this if you're interested in colonial conflicts and stuff. This is really the frontier, portion of it. You know, Blood and Plunder goes all over the place. So I really recommend picking up that book. Now they have, if you get the newest cards from Raise the Black, they actually have like the natives in it and some of the forces in here. So let's take a look at the, one more look at the entire fort and look at this Garrison house. And we'll pop it open and take a look at all the pieces in here. So this just got the, put some miniatures in there. They're all sitting around the conference table here discussing strategy. It looks like they're about to get invaded, though. They might want to cut their discussion a little short here. But anyways, I just wanted to show you an example of what it would look like with some miniatures inside of it. This building's a little bit larger than most buildings are, but it actually is to scale how a building actually would look. There'd be multiple rooms, and I kind of like this style, so you can play right through the building. It opens new possibilities for gameplay. Like the conflict can carry on right into the garrison house, and you can fight room to room. It's similar to ship rules, actually. When you have room to room, it's like different levels on the ship. But anyways, that's what I really like this style. I think all my buildings from now on are all going to have interiors. I'm just trying to make them more elaborate every time I do it. All right, so that's pretty much it to wrap on this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.